You are on with Big J. Let's talk, and D Mac will be entering the room shortly. Hey, we want to say thank you for being on with us again on this beautiful, beautiful Sunday evening. We appreciate everyone who tunes in and everyone who is a part of our YouTube channel. We want to offer and say it again. If you would like to subscribe to our channel, just hit that big red button right below. Also, next to that, go over to your right and hit that bell so you'll be notified when we upload content. Also, make sure that you smash that like button. And after doing that, leave a comment if the chat is conducive. So again, we thank you for being on with Big J and D Mac tonight. Let's talk. D Mac will be in the room in a minute. But tonight's subject is capitalizing of or on the black struggle. Sometimes I do typos, forgive me, but it should be capitalizing on the black struggle. And when we look at the word capitalize, in other words, to take advantage of, how can we take advantage of someone's struggle? And that's what we're going to deal with tonight, taking advantage of someone else's struggle. We thank Nine for the super chat. We really appreciate that, Big Nine. And we're glad you're in the house, man, because we're going to need you tonight, sir. So we need you to come in if you can. If not, just your typing and your presence will make a big difference. Let me put the link in the room tonight. This is one we're going to give people time to come in because I feel that this is one that is relevant to the African American community, also any culture that is a minority. All right, so there it is, D-Mac. It's right above. It's in the room. So what we want to do tonight is we're going to wait for D-Mac to come in, and then we're going to start dialoguing on the subject because the subject is very deep and it's political. So at the same time, we want to address it from many areas and many different ways. Again, we want to thank 9 Days to Victory Lane for the super chat. Means a lot. It helps the channel and sustain what we're doing. All right. So we want to say it again. We're going to deal with how individuals use the narrative of the struggle and how they capitalize on the black struggle. So we're going to deal with that in 2 seconds as D-Mac comes on. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to begin to deal with the conversation. And let me tell you why. And this is what I believe. In my opinion, I believe that, hey, what's up, D?
Going on, brother?
Man, I'm trying to be like you when I grow up, man. Yeah, man. So we're going to deal with this subject tonight. We got Nine who's already given us a super chat. We thank God for him and thank God for him being a narrator and being a part of the channel. You want to give any salutations or anything, D-Mac?
Shout outs to the WNBA. Those girls are really doing a great job. Season starting off real hot and heavy. Shout out to Ain't No Ducking down in North Carolina doing their thing, keeping brothers out of the streets. And yeah, let's get at it.
Yeah, shout out to our sponsor tonight, Rob, too. You can find him on YouTube as an artist. That's ROBTWO. All one word. Shout him out. We're shouting out Rob, too. You can find him on YouTube at ROBTWO. He's our sponsor for tonight. So we're giving him a shout out. So also, D, what do you think about our subject tonight before we get into it, big man?
Oh man, I was thinking about it earlier today, and it's like every single industry that there is, the black struggle is exploited through that industry, and
Wow.
it's very apparent if you just pay attention.
Right. Facts. And the funny thing about that, I was studying the other day Darwin's theory. I'm a believer. I'm a Christian 100%. And I don't have
Hmm.
issues with what I study because I'm firm in my conviction. But when I was studying Darwin's theory again, I found out because watch this. We're living in the new America. I had
Yeah.
to be politically correct, right? We're living in the new America. And what I was looking at, man, is that when I was studying Darwin again, and he talked about the birds on Galapagos Island, right? Hey, we got to give another moderator shout out. Go ahead, D.
Hey, Marquina, how you doing?
That's
What's you
big
say? Good
moderator with us.
evening. All right. Good to
Yeah.
have you in here. Good to have you in here. We're gonna
Yes,
get
ma'am.
deep on this one a little bit.
Yeah. And what I studied and what I was learning was that there were certain birds, D, that were put or placed on this island, right? And at first,
Hmm.
because of the survival of the fittest, they did not have the things necessary to continue or to live on that island. But over
Yeah.
time, they begin to evolve. And through the process of evolution, these birds, their beaks grew longer and things based on
Hmm.
their body begin to change so they can evolve in their element or in their environment. So when I said
Yeah.
that to say this, I was watching something the other day, man, and we're going to talk about emasculation in a minute and how
Yeah.
slave owners used emasculation. And when I was watching it, they had this new narrative to where these women were putting dresses on young men. I didn't understand
Hmm.
it. And what they were saying was that children need to be given the opportunity to choose their role identification. If that's not emasculation, I don't know what is.
Yeah, how are you going to give a child that type of choice? A child does not have the mental development to make those types of decisions. That's something that they should decide on when they get old enough to understand what they're really dealing with.
Facts.
When a child is in first and second grade, kindergarten, and stuff like that, they don't understand. All they understand is what is in front of them, the image
Right.
placed in front of them. So I would wait until they get to an age where they can make their own decision and go from there.
And Megan Fox was one of those individuals that put this out, this narrative in the media. Then there are other sports examples who are doing it or allowing it. I'm not going to say who they are, but it is a reality. So I believe what we're going to do tonight, we're going to address all the narratives then when it deals with the subject of emasculation within the Black African American community. Do you want to define where we're going tonight? Can you?
You're breaking up on me.
Do you want to define where we're going tonight? Let me try to
Just
change it up.
well, till you get it fixed, I'll just go ahead and start. Because what I really want to talk about with you saying what you said, I want to talk about buck breaking. Um, there's a thing called buck breaking that was developed back in the slavery times, and this
Facts.
was what they used to, the same system that they used to break horses. And
Right.
they would take the strongest lead horse out in front of all of the other horses, and they would break them in front of them to let them know, this is an example of what can
Right.
happen.
Right.
And this is the same concept that they applied to the slaves. So they would take that strongest slave out in front of everybody and they would beat him half to death just to
Yes.
let them know no
Yes.
matter how strong you think you are, we can destroy your strongest. And
Facts.
this is the same thing that's happening in social media now. They're buck breaking. Whenever these guys get out of line and say things that they don't like, and when I say they, I'm talking about that 1% that owns 85% of the world's wealth.
Wow.
The ones that own all six of the major networks. That's what
Yes,
I mean
sir.
when I'm saying they.
Yes.
They do not want these people to go to a certain level. And whenever those people get out of line, they will break them in front of everybody. Bill Cosby is a prime example.
Exactly. And the funny thing with that, D, that you're talking about it, and we're going to explore it in a minute, is happening internally within our own communities now. Isn't that something how we've adopted the narrative of an individual or individuals who needed to control a group of people who were not from here? And watch this. When you take the word emasculation, it simply means to castrate. In other words, the original word
You're,
before it
you're
is
breaking up on
identified.
me.
Okay, can you hear me now?
You froze right now. Your screen is
Really?
froze.
Is
Yeah. Well, it's
Marquita?
back now.
Okay, all right.
It's back now.
That's weird. I got a solid. What's the
They
name
really
here?
don't want this message to come out tonight, man. It seems
Yeah,
like whenever we start coming with these deep messages, we seem to get these interferences. But
facts.
yeah, you good now.
Right, but the funny thing was it never happens except unless we're talking about something like this. So watch this. What they did was to deprive the slaves of his manhood. They would cut off his genitalia, or either his foot, because what that was supposed to do was to reduce him as a man. And it was supposed to make him feel less than or inferior to the individuals who were in control of him. So what in during the point of slavery, emasculation was something that was done. Watch this. How would you as a man feel if your wife and your children were taken away from you? See, there's something that a lot of African American women don't understand. There is some genetics in our system based on what's been done to men throughout 400 or 500 years. Here's a man who has his wife. All of a sudden, he's removed from his wife and given another woman. That's called forced adultery.
Mhm.
Here's a man who has
Yeah.
children, and his children are sold to someone else, emasculation, to work and earn more money than the father. Go ahead, D.
Wow. Now let me add to that a little bit because I broke down the welfare system or public assistance. This system was put in place because it takes the woman's reliance off of her black husband, her black man, and
Facts.
puts her faith and her reliance in the system or the master. And so she devalues the black man, and all means of controlling people through government program requires it,
Facts.
and you have to give up your black man in order to keep your government benefits package. So
Yes,
that man
see,
can't be in that household.
that's
So
right.
now you've taken the black man out of the household, and the woman is leaning on the government for
Yes.
all her needs, and she don't have the value for the black man. So that's just another way of separating us and capitalizing on our black struggle. Because
Or
as
you
long as we have struggles and no family, they
facts,
can
brother.
continue to use that welfare system to keep our sisters down.
That's facts. Or what they would do is this. They would take a man and give a woman something called Section 8 or how public housing and not allow that man
Yeah.
to live there. Then they would come in your home and say what you can own and what you couldn't own. This is done in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. They would come in and inspect your house. Oh, your television is too big. Oh, where did you get this from? Who bought you that? Where did this come from? You had to dress a certain a way for a woman who had kids based on emasculation. So what they did is they built more prisons, and what they did, they reduced the jobs. Now they don't give the jobs to the man coming out of the 70s. Now they give them to the women. So what that do reduces the man now to become a house husband. So okay, so now women are reduced to having to go to work every day, while that man who's taking care of the kids now is becoming a lazy male, or that's what we're called. But there's no truth to that. But the identity based on this, it goes back to the struggle of emasculation, which says this: the survival of the fittest will stand. And that was created in the narrative back in that time, to where there was one person allowed to live in the house based on his color and his education. Then there was one person based on his strength and his value who was told to go work where? In the field. So now you have a problem between the two who are trying to identify with each other, and they can't. So when you bring them together, there is an automatic struggle because one feels better than the other one, or who has been given more power and control over the one who's outside. So then that suggests now today in the 80s, 90s, there are companies like Raytheon, Boeing, all these major companies coming out of the 70s and coming out of suffrage when women could not vote. You see, that's the rule. But many ladies bend the rules, and the man is there. Yes, 100%. You're right. And guess what? He's going to disappear at the time the worker or the person is supposed to come by. Yes, you're right. He's going to disappear. Why? Because they can't make it any other way. Because the male has been emasculated. Are all men lazy? No, not at all. It's just the system. We have to realize that education was a byproduct for certain people at a certain time. Now the value of education has disappeared. And a BA degree used to have value. Not anymore. A BA degree is like a high school diploma. If you don't have a master's now in a certain specific area, you are in trouble. So then what has happened? We have gone back 400 years. You don't believe me? Look at the individuals fighting on YouTube. And the narrative makes no sense at all. Why? Because mentally, we have gone back 400 years to come against each other just to see where the value of economics or a dollar can be gained. So what? Guess what? Just like the slaves in Egypt learned emasculating, it happened with those individuals who came out of slavery. Then what you did, you took women, a specific women, and you gave them jobs in the metal factories during World War One. All right. And what happened with that was there was a group of other people who sat at home and never had anything. So what the system did through the government was create something called welfare. And welfare was not for the minority people. For those who don't know this, welfare was for those Caucasian women whose husband went off to war, and to subsidize their income until those men came home. Guess what? We gave them a system. But then the system was polluted to say we can control through our narrative another group of people who we will call and who we will make depend on us. So the original narrative is no longer in place. Now the narrative suggests that 90% of minorities are on some type of government welfare, whether it be insurance, whether it be something. Why? Because it's part of the system of emasculation. Then what we do, I was listening to another show the other day. Hope D-Mac hurry up and get back. And what we would do is, I listened to another show, and they would just call each other out of name, and it was just this and that. And it was like, yeah, man, yeah. You still probably live in the projects. You see? That's what Hitler did. That's what we do, emasculating individuals. Because now, instead of getting rid of your genitalia, I'm getting rid of your pride. Within our own community, I'm getting rid of the things that make you feel strong as a man. I'm going to build the woman who at certain points in life could not go past the glass ceiling. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to allow her now to go past the glass ceiling, build more prisons, so the men who were once there now are not. Watch this. The real problem is the worst people has the loudest voice. Wow. You're right. Oh, I was going to say, I'm going to say it anyway. Those individuals who have that loudest voice, most are not educated and who are not informed on the truth. Let me know if I'm right, Nine. Marquina said, but also, Big J, some women has men there, yes, but the way the system works is that the woman want more than the man in the house can give them. Wow. You're 100% right. And again, that goes back to emasculation. How we see things on TV. Women now say, how's your credit? What you should. Women now say, okay, I want a man who's like this. But now watch this. You can't give me everything that I need, so I don't want you anymore. So what that does, that puts an independent clause on that man who has fathered children, and now he's saying, it said to him, I don't want you anymore. This is a very deep subject. I want to hear from the room because we're going to get into it tonight. I hope D-Mac hurry up and come on back, because this is critical. We have to understand how to overcome a burden that has been placed on our shoulders that we're living in and we're operating in because we don't have knowledge of it. See, what the emasculation was, it was a form of belittling you. It was a form of showing the other slaves that you had no value, because when you get rid of a man's genitalia or you cut off his foot and he's no longer able to walk, you have just reduced him to the Lord's standards as a man. Then you take his wife. Then you take his children. So what you now identify, because you give him another woman to bear children, which is not his wife. So if you really want to know where adultery comes from, it was something handed to us. It was something given to us because it was used to make those in charge more money. Hey, Bob, I'm going to sell you Jim. What you got for trade? Well, Mark, I'm going to tell you. I got these 3 old women down here, and I need to birth some more children. How much? So guess what we're doing to each other now? a system that exploited us. For weak men now are using the same thing to control the narrative of other African American men. That's why I showed that thing the other day, the 48 Laws of Power, because it is a suggested understanding how to control the mind of people. Macrina said, because when we are in a relationship, it's no longer I, but us together. 100%, Macrina. It's not 50-30. It's not 50-40. It's 50-50. The Bible even says when a man and a woman come together, they no longer are twain, but they are one flesh. That's why I believe that the principles of the Word of God need to be taught so individuals can come out of this self-bondage and self-pain. Individuals are hurting each other based on weakness, when all you have to say, brother, listen, I don't understand, but yet I want to be like you. Brother, listen, I don't understand. Can you help me? Instead of getting online, calling each other by the N-word, cussing each other out, threatening each other, find a medium. One thing that I teach was conflict and resolution. Where there's no unsolved or no resolution, that could actually be someone who is emasculating another African American man or minority for power, gain, or influence. We ain't gonna get a lot of people behind this one tonight because those who are actually using this don't want it to be known. So guess what? We have to bring it to the platform because there are women in here like Macrina who can help us and help women understand that this is actually going on in the new America. So what we do, guess what? Black people couldn't, I'm sorry, and I got to say this how it is. African American people couldn't afford cocaine. Cocaine was called the white lady. And that's what the rich people use. Individuals in entertainment, it was called the white lady. So what they did to keep people in a box and to keep people segregated, they created something called crack cocaine. And they gave a brother by the name of Freeway Ricky Ross a bunch of it to take into the African American community. Then what did you have? You had emasculation through the act of drugs. You separated people through the act of drugs. Then what you did, you started churches. I don't want to use God's word. You started organizations and separated people from each other. Well, I don't believe in you because you're this denomination. Well, I don't believe in you because you're this denomination, or you're Catholic, or you're this, or emasculation at its best. Because if I can subjugate, or if I can separate people, I can cause division. So Freeway Ricky Ross, take these drugs within your own community and emasculate your own people. How do you do that? We're going to pay you to destroy your own community. And then what we're going to do, we're going to give the young brothers guns that they couldn't afford on any platform. And then what we want to do, we're going to let them kill each other. And then we're going to call their own people, who are going to call them what? Crackheads. Woo! We only care about conflict and finances. Why? Because it equals dollars. There's never a resolution because some things call for a resolution, because without a resolution, there's always conflict. But when the conflict, as Nye just said, equals economics and dollars, there is someone at the top saying, don't stop. Don't stop. Watch this. Let's see what Macrina said. Many of us can say no, but many don't get the principle. What the world sees is the real of false in reality. So many see as real as they go by. Facts. Thank you, Macrina. The white powder is what the white lady, and the black male is the black woman. You got it, Doc. You got it. So you see what happens? Let me give it to you in a little bit more detail, because 9 is 100% right. What happened in central Los Angeles, central LA, whatever it was called, you begin to have the police who got bored. You have to remember, everything is geared and governed by economics. And I hope I'm not shut down for this, but you begin to have the police departments who got bored, especially the LA sheriffs who had gangs within their own department. You don't believe me? Go look it up. It was called the Skulls. The Skulls. So if you have a gang within the police department, who are they? Who is the opposition? Emasculation. Who is the opposition that the sheriffs would have to call their gang the Skulls, gangbangers themselves, because the crime rate is lowered and we're not making that money and there's no hires going on. We have to create crime in the community and say that X just shot at Y and Z killed you. You're going to get this in a minute. So all these brothers online fussing about things that don't matter, when someone needs to present the right narrative so we can understand that we have put ourselves back 400 years in slavery based on a lack of understanding and ignorance. Am I calling people ignorant? No, I'm not. But what I'm saying, we have re-identified and reclassified ourselves as people who we were before. I've never seen a group of people who tries to hurt each other or try to kill each other or try to reduce a man or woman from being anybody. Am I fussing? Yes, I am. Because it's time. We said on this channel, yes, it's about sports. But watch this. Emasculation. You have a black brother who makes it to the NBA or any type of sport. What is the first thing he does? He does not go back and find Margarita, the sister that helped him out when he was struggling in college. O.J. Simpson left his first wife for a younger woman by the name of Nicole Simpson. That I'm going to do Kwame Brown's word. That allegedly he killed. I hope I said that right. That allegedly he killed her and her friend. But if we're not seeking to be like the ones who placed us there and create our own identity and wealth in our own community, we don't have to imitate and do things to hurt others. But the call for emasculation means in order for me to be a part of a corporate type, I must step on you and set on you. So then what brothers do when they make it to the sport of the NBA or any other genre of sport, the first thing they do is go get them a Caucasian woman. Is there anything with the Caucasian wrong with her? Not at all. Is there anything wrong with any other minority? Not at all. But somewhere along the line, we've been taught a certain hair and a certain color and a certain perspective equals that you fine. Well, when I grew up, I'm 57 years old. In the African-American community, there was naturals. And everybody did this, signaling black power. I'm not saying that meant aggressive or we're going to try to hurt someone. It was just how the Panthers identified when we went to Africa or go to other places. This is who we are. You don't have to self-mutilate yourself to be identified as somebody. But when it comes to emasculation, that you're going to reach an advantage over someone, guess what we do? I'm going to step on you. I don't care. So Master said, you know what? We'll have them kill themselves. We'll put crack cocaine in the community. They'll steal their family's VCR. They'll steal their family's purses. They'll do everything in the name of emasculation. And we set it up. And they don't even know. The Italians sponsored every drug in Harlem. You don't believe me? Go look it up. The Italians, black people didn't have drugs. So guess what? Every folk outside of us took the occasion to emasculate our identity and separate us from the truth of who we are. Why? Because where there's ignorance, there's no hope. Let me ask a question. George Floyd was just murdered. How many people do you hear on YouTube talking about it? Or is it forgotten now? Because it's over with. Because Al Sharpton and others pointed the fingers and they blamed, but no one's talking about it now. Why? Because that's what the agenda says. And it says this: as long as there is a position to where someone else can be blamed, to not point fingers at ourselves, that's what we'll do. Because if it's the case was true, we'll still be going on. Macrina said that's where we go wrong, because we follow the crowd. Say it again, my sister. I already know our videos now are because of what's going on YouTube and the algorithm listening and searching for certain keywords. I'm not going to say those individuals' names. They're not interested in these topics. These topics are boring. I can put up 2-3 days situation that we're going to talk about this. Guess what? It's not interesting because there's a group of people talking about hurting each other. There's a group of people talking about killing each other. There's a group of people talking about doing this or doing that. And guess what it does? It separates the truth from a lie. That's why D-Mac and myself come on. because sports is relative in every genre of information. And if we look at it, that's what happened to Kwame Brown. Emasculation. And what did they do? He didn't know how to deal with it. So for 20 years, he allowed himself to be a slave again. And then coming on YouTube, because he has a narrative and everybody, as he said, is eating off of his name, guess what he does? He's emasculating himself. Well, I shouted this person out. Well, I'm going to shout you out. Well, if people can't earn things from themselves, what is the purpose of doing it? What is the real purpose? Let's see what 9 says. We celebrate the settlement and forget the crime. Wow. Did you hear what he just said? We celebrate the settlement, but we forget the crime. We got the money, so that's what we're going to celebrate now. We good. We profited on the name, but we're going to forget the crime. Why? Because the settlement is more important than the crime. That's why individuals now are quiet. Every now and then, somebody going to say, George Floyd. Do you remember what happened to George Floyd? How do I know that? Rodney King. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, Rodney King was beaten by LAPD. Emasculation. And they thought that they were going to do the same thing to him by embarrass him, by beating the hell out of him on national TV, but they didn't know anyone was looking. But see, now, if you're being emasculated, it's your fault for not studying and finding out what's going on, because there's cameras everywhere. There's a voice everywhere. You don't have to be silent anymore. You can speak up for yourself. If you ever did miss wrong, now is the time to where there's a factory of people who are listening. So there's no excuse. Watch this. YouTube is the biggest form of emasculation among African American men. I don't care who like it or not. It's your business. My channel, DMAC channel. Watch this. I hear brothers getting arguments with each other. Man, I can't stand you. Blah, 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 can't stand you. But like when Kwame Brown shouts out other people's channels, then guess what? These individuals become friends again or want to shout each other out again. Why? Because it's all about the dollar. When you know that person's narrative was not conducive to what you believe, and now you say that's confusing the people that follow you. I'm sorry. It is what it is. It is what it is. Let me find my my battery charger. Stephanie! So this is very important or very critical. Give me 2 minutes. I got to get my charger. Oh, there it is. Okay, I got it. So now we have to understand, how do we overcome these things? How do we get in a position or a better place to where we won't celebrate the settlement, but we won't forget the crime? Do you know how we have to do that? We have to educate ourselves. And education has become a pastime for most people. They're not willing to do it. As long as I know what I know and there's people who will celebrate me, I'm not going to advance myself any further. I'm not going to study any further. I'm not going to support anyone. I'm not going to look for anyone. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create the narrative that says I'm happy just where I am. There's individuals that says I'm happy just where I am. But guess what? Success takes time, but you have to be willing to suffer what it is that's true. Every man is given a level of faith. I use the word faith as success, but it's how you look at it. There's a quote that I always use. There's not a man that can help being what? Being born broke. But there's not a man who has to stay becoming comfortable with being broke. There's not a man who can help himself for the position or the place that he was born in. But in one book I read, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, if you can find influence without emasculation over what period of time has been given your life, you can end up becoming someone. Let me shout someone out. I'm going to shout someone out. 9 Days to Victory Lanes in the channel. He's a part or one of our moderators. He writes. He has certain books that he writes. Great narratives. I suggest that you go to Google and you look up this gentleman right here. Owns his own business, incredible leader, incredible person, has a great wealth of knowledge. His name is 9 Days to Victory Lanes. Please go look that up. He has information you can find on Google. Why? Because we're living in an era now to where we need to educate ourselves on what's being done to us. Do you not know that most of the things that we're going through, these are things that we copy from somebody else? We're copying from some, and you're right, Marquina, but some people don't like to read. They rather listen to something that tickles their mind. You're right. So how do you help a person? I'm going to ask the room, and please leave a comment. How do you help people who don't like to read? Guess what? There's audio books now. There's no excuse, Marquina. There's audio books. Watch this. Some nights when I'm going to sleep, I go to YouTube and I find an audio book about a subject that I want to study or that I want to become versed in. So what I'll do, I'll put my headphones on so it won't bother anyone else. So as I'm sleeping, it's being deposited into my mind, which gets into my spirit. So the next time I hear the subject, I'm able to dialogue or be versed in the concept of what I study. Studying is just not a physical understanding or by doing something based on reading. There's people who can't read, but they have audio books. Even coming out of slavery, it was not an excuse. Because let me tell you where preaching came from. Because most slaves could not read, and the brother who worked in the house could, what he would do, he would come out and sing a song through the art of sermonizing called preaching. Well, I wish somebody would come on down to the brook. You see what I'm saying? So there's a way to learn everything. When it came to basketball players who tried to attend college and they were struggling, what did they do? They put a ball in their hand. So many bounces equal this foul. So many bounces equal this consonant. This is how you pronounce this word based on this. There are no excuses. Even the Bible said, watch this. At one time, God winked at ignorance. There's no excuses. There are a lot of things that are going on now within our own culture, within our own society called mental health. And if individuals don't stand or study outside the box, we will never know some of those things. And some of these things are sitting right among us. I was talking to someone the other day about the Dark Triad. And they looked at me like, what are you talking about, the Dark Triad? Are you talking about witchcraft? I say, no, not at all. These things have, through the study of diagnosis, these things have been studied and are now basically facts. And if you read the narrative, you'll see that they've been happening for many years. But like anything else, from a social perspective, socioeconomic perspective, these things weren't mentioned in the community. Why? Because no one understood them. No one knew what they were about. You see how that works? When you don't have knowledge of something, it's easy to take advantage of a person without knowledge. Why? Because their mind has not been geared to find knowledge. So, Macrina, I guess you're right. Watch this. YouTube is platform where the Black Civil War is displayed and laughed at by other races. Wow. Let me leave that up there for a minute. And laughed at. Why would someone laugh at something they don't understand? Because if you don't understand your own plight and what you've been through, why should I understand? Isn't every African male and American male an athlete? Doesn't every African American male jump? You know what I'm saying? Now, what about those in the ghettos? I told you the other day, there's no such thing as a ghetto. A ghetto is a state of mind, not a place. Because if that was the case, doctors and lawyers couldn't come out the ghetto. Because if it's a negative place, then that means everyone in that position or that place would be defined to being drug dealers, pimps, prostitutes, and hustlers. That's not the case. Amazing people come out of these neighborhoods. But see, that goes back to what you've been taught, what you've been said. This is why young men go around killing each other who live 2 blocks from each other. Why? Because they don't understand. That was not your destiny. That was something given you so you'll become a part of the process of gentrification. We want our community back now. What we're going to use is gentrification to get you out. Listen, there's a place in LA called Baldwin Hills. All right, right by Dorsey High School, if you know that area, if you're listening to me. Baldwin Hills is full of apartments. Many years ago, that's where most or a lot of African American people lived. But what happened, USC, University of Southern California, a couple of years ago had a few murders. And what those murders did, it surrounded and around those particular areas because USC is around what they call the ghetto. So what they did through a process of gentrification that no one talked about and no one is talking about, they went and got rid of everybody in these communities and bought up all the property. Do you know who lives in the properties now? The students of USC. Watch this. The blue line, I don't take the lines, but whatever line it is, runs from USC to Santa Monica. Wait a minute. If you went down Rodeo Road in LA 10, 15 years ago, there was a possibility you'd be robbed and killed. But guess what happened? The power of dollars came in through the process of the 48 laws of power, and it gained an advantage and took the community back. See, people think this stuff is just ignorant or silly. No, not at all. You have to understand there's a process of elimination going on right up under our nose. And if you don't get it or wake up, guess what? You say, well, I only got a couple of years left anyway, whatever, I'm going to retire. No, we all have children. I don't care what state you live in. I don't care what you do. There's always a system to where someone's thumb is on your back. Let me get to Marquina. I will never understand the culture of this country. My little degree of something is in sociology, which is in the study of culture and people. There are some great individuals who come up under that. Max Weber and some other people that you can study. There was one African American sociologist, I can't think of his name right now, a political activist for the black movement. I just can't think of his name. But those individuals did some amazing studies to say why people do what they do. And it's basically a level of concealment. If I never tell you who you are or where you come from, if I don't allow you to identify with yourself, guess what? You'll end up destroying yourself and others. All right? In the Watch Riot, it was said, I'm not going to say the DJ's name, but he said, burn, baby, burn. Why? Because it was enough being done within the community. But the thing is, like with Rodney King, folk didn't realize they were burning their own communities. Do you not realize in LA, South Central LA, there's streets called Main, Broadway, Central? Those were the economic privileged neighborhoods with clubs back in the day. But when the riots happened, guess what white America did? Say, you're going to burn it down? We're not going to rebuild it. And that's what happens. So culture is identified with groups of people, but yet groups of people, if they don't understand each other, they can't live together. Here's a group, you can have certain people, right, who are economically challenged, but they will refuse to live together. You ain't eating up my food. You ain't living in my house. Whereas there's other groups of people, sociology, which says, you know what, in order for us to expand our dollar, we're going to all live together. In order for us to achieve the American dream, we're going to all live together. And we're not going to emasculate each other, which means I'm not going to talk about how much you weigh. I'm not going to talk about how much you weigh. I'm not going to talk about how much money you earn. We're going to all pool our resources together and make it. Nobody's going to use the other one. If you want to see emasculation, turn on YouTube and go to certain channels and watch how other content creators treat other creators who are at a higher level just to use their name. And then once they're identified with that person's name, they begin to break them down. Like I said, now the algorithm is controlled by the tag Kwame Brown. And if you don't use that narrative within your taglines now, and if the algorithm hadn't picked you up, it's going to be just how it is. 4 or 5 people gaining truth and gaining knowledge, compared to 3,500 people listening to Judge Joe Brown call our vice president a hoe. Hey, I'm just telling the truth. It is what it is. Because that's the narrative that people want. We as a people still don't want to identify with self-preservation. I don't know. 9 says, corporate America loves destruction. Thank you. They let you drop the price. It's buy low, sell high. 100%. That's right. And let me tell you, everything is from a mental perspective. And I'll give you an example of what you're saying, Nine. Across the street from where I live, there's a store called Superior Market. So one day I went into the store. Give me 2 seconds. One day I went into the store and they had removed all the doors. There was only one door. And you know me, as if you've been listening to me, I'm going to go home and study the mental aspect to why they did that. Nobody's questioning this. Why is there only one door? Well, what that does, it captures the mind without you even knowing to say, if I will go in here, I can't walk out the other door. So let me go ahead and buy something and come back through the checkout line. Mind control. And when I went and studied a particular individual who deals with the mind, that's the exact thing he said. Mind control. So if I put one way in and one way out, the mind has been conditioned not to turn around and walk out. So I'm going to go ahead in, make my purchase, and do what I'm supposed to do, and I can't walk out. I got to stand in the line. And guess what? Revenue shot up. So do you see how the fundamental aspects of life work? Revenue shot up. So through emasculation, the system of strength and power wants to control people. Nine said it right and said it best. Corporate America. And if I can control you, I can guide you. Most people think they own their home. No, you don't. Not till you pay for it. It belongs to the bank. Then if you lease your car or whatever you're doing in your car, it's not yours until you pay for it. People have finally got smart. I'm not buying a car. I'm going to lease it. That's what we're going to have Miss Unica Cobra coming on next week talking about how to make proper financial decisions because we need to know. All right, let me see. But Big J, that doesn't mean because you are highly intelligent that stupid can come from your mouth. You're right. And that's what I saw. You're right, Marquina, 100%. But the scary thing, Marquina, is this. Like we're saying about emasculation, that show on Kwame Brown's page was said to have one of the highest ratings on YouTube of viewers. So, and guess what everybody was doing? Oh, they call him the elder. Elder Joe Brown is on it. Elder's bringing out points. Somebody even got on my page and said, you know what? We don't disrespect elders. I said, if that's the case, it's based on age. I'm about to be 60 in a couple of years. I'm an elder, but I'm going to tell the truth. So guess what people do? People shy away from this narrative for people, and they go to the narrative to where it's negative. All right? Why? Because there's something in it for everyone. Either entertainment, economics, or just a social economic understanding. I can get something from it. Let me do this for you. Look, like I told somebody one time, I don't want to be shouted out. Because if you give it to me, if man gives it to me, that means you can take it away. But if it's given to me by a higher power, no one else can take it away but him. 9, let's see what 9 says. We have been conditioned not to try because the Savior will deliver us 100%. But that's why I said before, you have to realize these individuals during that time, 400 years ago, were being beaten with cat o' nine tails. They were being beaten with chains, but they would go by the rivers at night and they would sing hymns, believing that the God or the higher power would deliver them or save them. So what they did not do, they did not fall to the physical and to the mental abuse. But now we have taken those same conditions to it through emasculation. People will turn around and talk about other people and laugh at them or try to find fault in them because their narrative is weak. And then guess what we say? It is what it is. I got mine, you better get yours. And that has become the narrative. And it's based on classism, which certain people really don't fit. I don't care how much money you have. Chris Rock said it best. There are rich and there are wealthy. Then there are poor. Let me say it again. Chris Rock was 100% correct. Chris Rock said there are rich, there are wealthy, and there are poor. You either fall into one of those categories. I did a paper in college called The Economics of Violence, and that paper went big. And the reason I wrote that paper is because I've always had and wanted to know a sense of violence within the African American community. because I couldn't understand it. And watch this. When you look at the education system within schools, where there are apartments, there are no property tax. I hope you catch this. There are no property tax. So then the student within the education system of those schools, they struggle. Another level of emasculation that says if you want government or state money, you must be a homeowner and pay property tax. Otherwise, we're not going to fund your schools. That's why we have schools what you call P5 and P4 schools, which are run by the states because they're that bad. Tell people to come to Big J. You're going to get information here. You're going to get information here because all the people here, that's what we're about, information. So watch this. So because these are apartment dwellers, you're saying their kids do not deserve a proper education. But now if you go up to Palos Verdes or these other places to where there's homes and where there's American dollars, guess what? Because of property tax, these kids are given books, computers, iPads, everything. Why? Because the money is in the area because of the property tax, which pays for all the economics which they need. Let's see what Nine says. If everyone has everything, then everyone has nothing. Man, I can't even deal with these comments today. Y'all on fire. Y'all cooking. Macrina says, but Nine, they didn't have the proper knowledge, but we have better knowledge. But it is up to us to differentiate right from wrong. Development is different. Wow. Couldn't say it better myself. So you see what I'm saying? What happens, what they both just said, is what we do to ourselves. All right? That's why we're going to have people coming on that can help you answer questions, deal with certain affairs, so you'll know some of the right decisions and the right moves. Yes, we still support sports here on this channel, but we want to give you information that's conducive to help you help your children for generations to make proper decisions. Because our parents made some made bad decisions, and guess what we did or doing? We're making bad decisions. So we want to make proper decisions. So it has to be spoken on. Watch this. The Bible says this. Christ said, I have to keep referring to it. Where there are 2 or 3 people gathered in my name, he said, I will be the God in the midst. Not a God. I want to say the God in the midst. So as long as there's several people here, we're doing what's right. If one can teach one and reach one, I'm going to keep doing it. We're not going to stop. D-Mac and myself are committed to this. So then if we look at it again and we understand, we must see that the plight of America is changing. Why? Because they want to destroy the image of a strong man. That's been taken away. If the strong man is in prison, do you not know that they're building more prisons? You're 100% right, Macrina. And the thing is, people say when they look at the Bible, they look at white and black. That's not what I look at. I look at faith. And what I love is this. Merriam-Webster said in the dictionary. I like Merriam-Webster and I like Smith Bible Unabridged Dictionary. I like Merriam-Webster because her definition for faith said that it is a firm conviction without evidence. I have a conviction without evidence. So no matter what goes on, I believe in God without evidence. And that's what we need to do. If we get back to that position and to that truth, we can operate in understanding. And this is what I'm telling you. If you go to the book of Exodus, the 1st chapter and the 12th verse, it says the more that the Egyptians beat and did harm to the Hebrews, the more they grew. And see, that's what we have to understand. How can we grow as a people? Who grew? The more the Hebrew nation grew. So how can we grow as a people? There can be no separatism. There can be no hate. There can be no abomination. There can be the genocide of our own people have to stop. And one of the biggest places that happened, that if someone has to step in at time, in Africa. We just think we're suffering. No, there are people who are gone in Africa because of their own plight. And because there's no more Nelson Mandela and other folk who are stepping in, we are seeing a new America who cares about nobody but itself. We must resist the truth if it puts holes in our narrative. Wow. Y'all cooking tonight. This you and I said, we will resist the truth if it puts holes in our narrative. You're 100% correct, Nine. In other words, people don't want to hear that. I wish D-Mac was coming back because I want to hear what he has to say. But people don't really want to deal with that. Why don't they want to deal with that? Because there's no truth. Oh, let me put the link back in the room. That might be it. There's no truth to their understanding. And when there's no truth to a person's narrative, they'll cut you off. Because it is, watch this, emasculation. Why would I emasculate someone? Can anyone in the room tell me that? Why would I do that? The reason I would do that is for this one purpose, is because I want to identify with something that you have and I want to take it. The purpose of emasculation is, again, is identify with your strength, mentally or physically, to remove you through your mind and through the understanding that you are powerful. Remove that and take what's yours. You don't believe me? I'm going to go back to 400 years ago. I'm going to remove your woman and she going to be in the house. You stay in the field and she coming in the house. Do you know what that would have did to a man mentally? He got to watch his wife go in there every night, or the master sneak outside because he sent the husband away with another woman just to breed children. Do you know what emasculation does to a person? It is sent to break you down. This is why I'm telling folks, stop fighting each other and encourage each other. That's right. It's a mind game. And folk are still playing the mind game today. But because there's so many ignorant people, I heard a preacher say one time, how much is the preacher in the window? He's satisfied as long as he got a Gators and Cadillac. But what about the people? While 9 says, while we are fighting, they're stealing the strongest lion and lioness from our tribe. Man, you cooking, man. You better talk. You better talk. Because the mind plays that game. Y'all cooking. Thank y'all tonight for helping me out. Thank y'all very much. And the thing is, and I'm not saying this because it's Big J, let's talk. You're not going to find this information nowhere. I'm sorry. Because people are not willing to talk about this narrative. Because this narrative suggests there's a way to come out of hurting each other. There's a way to come out of attacking each other. And the biggest way for me is through the word of God. But then there's other ways. It's through self-understanding and preservation that you find out truths that you can walk in and walk on and be established in your faith. Folk don't want that. I want to see you down. I want to see you ridiculed. I want to see you talked about. You know why? Because self-hate is a big thing. People just don't start disliking you all of a sudden. It's something that it already exists. As I'm studying, it was something already there. Why? Because you think you are more than me. Why can't we take what we all have been given and use our gifts to support the group through sociology perspective of people and become greater? See that? Become greater. Or we can allow ourselves to be torn down to where we tear others down. What say you? Are you going to change? Are you going to start seeing the positives of YouTube or opposed to the negatives of YouTube? What I found out is this. We're not entertaining. We're informational, but we're not entertaining. What people will do when I put the last of this video up and I do what I have to do to it, then folk are going to flock to it. Before that, there are other entertainers who don't want people to know the truth. Why? This is what they'll do. They'll schedule their narratives around the same time. I've done my research. Why? Because they know they're going to get more viewers because no one wants to hear that crap, Big J. No one wants to hear how we should come together. No one wants to hear that we should take the economics of our own dollars and invest them back into communities and build our own children and build our own school and build our own wealth and build our own places. Why? Because it will cause the narrative of corporate America to suffer. So what those who are put in power to do, they're put in power and placed there to stop the truth of those that can grow and build economics. It is what it is. And it is a reality. It is a reality. Watch this. 9 says, we are too weak to turn off the power button. Wow. Wow. We are too weak to turn off the power button. I guess you're right, 9. This is not interesting. No one wants this. But I'm going to keep talking, and we're going to, Lord forgive me for saying we're going to keep talking and telling the truth. Just as the voice is coming through the mic, the words are coming on the screen. Someone will pick up the truth of this narrative and say, you know what? I want change. How do I know that? I've been on this panel and this platform since Big J Let's Talk started. We've had individuals come in here and say, I thank God that I came in here. Now I understand. We had an elder come in and say, you know what? I'm going to stop using the N-word. See, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. Change begins with us. Change starts with us. When we look internally and within ourselves and we realize that there's something that we need to change, and we wake up and it says not someone else's fault, it's my fault. Jonah said, the fault is in me. Throw me overboard. Too many people today are blaming other individuals when the fault is in them. But the narrative of emasculation suggests you blame somebody else. Or you stole my channel content. Or you did this. Or you did that. Instead of coming together and saying, this dude Big J got something to offer. I wonder what I would miss if I don't have him a part of our platform. See, that's why I don't do that to people. I can't. Because you never know who's in this room that can help what you're doing. You never know in this room who can help your narrative. I like what Macrina says. She says, but the persons themselves feel they can't do it. That's why many black throttles each other, because they feel that energy makes them feel powerful. You're right. And that's where they get their strength from. And that's where emasculation comes from. Because if you look it up and you read that 48 laws of power, that was a slave method. But then there were a group of African American men, because of this quote unquote new America, who have low self-esteem, who don't feel good about themselves. So they use that to overcome the strength of other men. Where? Mentally. This is why these individuals keep themselves a mystery. Sometimes you see them on their page, sometimes you don't. They identify with things that most people want or most people don't have to keep them belittled in character. And a lot of people don't even know what's going on. Oh, watch my beautiful picture of my beautiful boat. I know you wish you had this. Or emasculation. Or watch me on my great vacation. I know you wish you had this. And that's emasculation. Why? Because somewhere in myself, I don't feel good, but I need to employ you to feel good about me and to pump me up. That's the 48 laws of power. It is for me to deceive you, trick you through the manipulation of emasculation to control your mind. And guess what? YouTube's algorithm only picked that up. It ain't going to pick up Big J talking about this is how you can get better. It's not going to pick up Big J, let's do this. Well, we're going to talk about real estate, how to own your own property. It's only going to pick up the negative narrative, the narrative. That's all it's going to pick up. People arguing and fighting, cussing and going off. But the rules and the policy said those things can't exist. So Big J, Macrina, 9, D-Mac, we present the element of that truth. And guess what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And guess what? That's what God wants us to have. And we're excited about it. We're excited about it because it brings wealth mentally. We attach our beauty to materials. 9, you and Macrina are cooking, man. And that's the reality, man. We want people to see our false narrative, like Macrina said, as 9 just said, to make our lives and to make who we are stellar. But that's not the reality. That's not the reality. Macrina said, I like what 9 had to say. It's our finances. 100%. 100%. Watch this. If you had a man and wife who are married against each other, it's going to pull that marriage together, separate. It's not going to bring it together. It's going to separate it. Why? Because someone in the marriage is using masculinity on the other person. Women can use masculinity too. You want to break down a man? The strongest person to break down a man is a woman. The Bible says a wise woman built her house with her own hands. But a foolish woman, and a house is representative or figurative of a man, but a foolish woman will tear that man down. Emasculation has come down through dispensations, not just to where we're doing it to ourselves as men. Women do it to men, and men do it to women by calling them bees and hoes. You see what I'm saying? Where does it stop? Where does it end? Where do we go? What do we do? And that's the reality. That's the reality. That we need to come full circle and understand that change begins with us. Each and every person in this world, change begins with us. It doesn't begin with anyone else. And if we're going to reach someone else, if we're going to reach somebody, it has to start with us. And I'm excited because this show, no matter how many people show up, no matter what goes on, we're trying to invoke and introduce change. That's why I love the other day, Brother Samaj J. White being on. And now Sister Unica Colbert is going to come on. And we won't change. It'll never stop until we change our mindset. There you go. Watch this. If I can teach something or share something real quick. Nine and Macrina, I need your help. Okay, let me show you how it works. The mind, the heart, and the mouth are parallel. The enemy seeks three places that he wants to attack. The mind, the heart, and the mouth. Why? Because the mind is the place where everything starts. That's why the Bible says it is with the mind that we serve the law of God, the word of God. So then that place in the mind is only given for God, so our mind will be strong. But what the enemy does, he wants to pollute the mind. And then what the heart does, the heart is the emotions of man. So the Bible says, guard your heart, for therein or wherein are the issues of life. So if you want to know about a weakness of a person, this is how men pimp women out and turn them out. They get to know their hearts through the absence of their mind or through their mind that has been victimized. So their heart now will use the mouth to speak either death or life. See, and this was the problem with Toby in that movie. Kunta Kinte never wanted to be Toby. And he just kept trying, but he couldn't break him. And some of us don't have that spirit today. It's going to keep going until we realize we were not born or not meant to be broken. We were meant to be successful. But the heart is treacherous. That's correct. In the wrong hands. And that's what I said, Margarina. Because if the mind is polluted, then the heart will become treacherous because what's been allowed in the mind. See, what happens in life, everything starts with the eye. All right? Then it comes with this, which is the heart, the flesh. All right? And then the mouth begins to confess, I'm a dummy. I'm nobody. I'll never be anybody. Or it says, I'm strong. I can do this. I won't fail. I will be successful. But it's all what we allow in our mind through our eyes. You should combat that with your ears. Come on, Doc. Come on. And that's the only way. But that comes through the art of, watch what I'm about to say, economics, though, from this perspective. It comes through the art of the ears. Everybody does not have that nine. See, because the Bible even said there's some people have ears, but they can't hear. Then there's some people who have a mouth, but they can't speak. No, it says eyes, but they can't see, and ears they can't hear. Why not? Because they've been given over to what has been fed their mind through the art of emasculation, which is a tool. So then they can't see that I can be successful, or they can't see that I can be somebody. But if the narrative is pushed by someone else who watch this, the enemy does see what you have. That's why they want to destroy you. You better catch what I said. They see what you have. That's why they come after you. They see who and what you are. That's why they try to pollute you. Why? Because what you are has value. I'll say it again. Thieves don't break into empty houses. They just won't do it. There's nothing there. So when you buy a house, what is the first thing that you do? You fortify it with locks. You change the locks. You change the windows to make sure everything is, you can't break in my place. Some people even put alarm systems. Why? Before I buy furniture, before I put spinners on my truck, before I do anything, I have to get insurance. And as Marquina said, that goes back to the mindset. Because if you think first how to protect your mind, everything else, and I'm a victim to that. How? Because At times, you can allow things and people around you to control your narrative based on mind control. And that's what emasculation is. I'm sorry. It's just simply mind control. And why do people want to control you? Because the things that are in your mind are valuable. The things that are in you are valuable. And guess what? Massa knew that. That's why after you were at your end, he sold you to another plantation. That's why when you were huck-a-buck, a big buck, that's why he sent you down so you can help every plantation increase in seed, have babies by everybody. If you show strength, you succeed, but weakness can break you. Thank you very much. It's a reality. It will break you. It's a reality. Listen, I want to check on D-Mac because he didn't come back on. I want to make sure he's all right. Nine and Macrina, you both were stellar, and you both were amazing in that you brought content tonight, which was totally conducive to the audience, I believe, and what we needed to hear. I respect those who come in this room and are on this channel with my everything. Why? Because we're meeting each other in a place of advancing our own call and our own ability to trust ourselves based on the self narrative. Because if we try to identify with someone else and who and what they are, we will be exposed very soon by real people. So I just want to say thank you to those who are in the room tonight. I'm going to check and see what happened to D-Mac, check and see if he's all right. But I just want to say that you are amazing. I will make sure that I do that, Macrina, because that's a stellar brother. That's a stellar brother. I just want to make sure he's all right. So what I want to do is come off of here. I'm Nine. Thank you, man, for everything. I want to encourage everyone again to go get Nine's book. Let me put his name up here so you know. Go to Google. You might watch the live stream later when it rebroadcasts. Go to Google and get that name, 9 Days to Victory Lane. It's going to pull up the name of his books. Make sure you do that. And again, you are the best and you are amazing. But you know what I'm going to say. Be the best, and the best you will become. I love this channel and I love this place. Why? Because the truth is spoken and the truth is heard. Thank you very much for being a part of Big J. Let's talk.